I secretly told my dad that mom was going to die soon, but my dad just said, then let her die. Mom heard that too, but she didn't cry, she just gently hugged me. Later, mom really did die, but my cold and indifferent dad, he went mad. Mom had been sleeping for a very long time. It was supposed to be time for me to go to kindergarten, but she still hadn't woken up. I touched her body, it was cold, and very hard. There was no warmth, no softness like usual. Mom, I'm hungry, I shook her hard. But she still didn't open her eyes. She wasn't like this before. In the past, if I even made a little sound, she'd wake up immediately and hug me gently to comfort me. But now, she was sleeping so deeply. I pulled the blanket over her and climbed down from the bed to call Dad. Dad hadn't been home for several days. Neighbor Aunt Linda said his first love came back after divorcing her husband, and he didn't want me and Mom anymore. Aunt Linda also said that Mom looked a lot like his first love, and that Dad must have married Mom because he thought she was his first love. I didn't know what first love meant, so I ran to ask Mom, but I couldn't understand. I started to dislike the moon because it took my dad away. To keep me from looking at her phone, Mom set a password. I couldn't call Dad. I held the phone up to Mom's face, but it didn't open like it usually did. I said to the phone, Siri, I won't secretly watch cartoons anymore. Please open it, I need to call Dad. But Siri didn't listen to me. I went to knock on Aunt Linda's door, but no one was home, so I had no choice but to climb back into bed and lie beside Mom. Mom was so beautiful. Even when she was sleeping, she was more beautiful than any fairy I'd seen on TV before. Dad would often look at Mom while she was asleep, and then he'd pick her up from beside me and carry her to their room. He'd act like a little dog biting Mom, even though she was afraid of dogs, and she never pushed him away. The next morning, Mom would always wake up late, hurriedly making breakfast for Dad and me. Adults always say kids don't remember things, but I remember everything. I remember that even when Mom was rushing around, her eyes were always full of smiles, but Dad didn't smile. He just sat there looking at his phone, ate his breakfast, then went to work, dropping me off at kindergarten on the way. The teachers at kindergarten all liked it when Dad dropped me off. I overheard them say that my dad was the best-looking dad, tall, handsome, and rich. They also said he was cold and distant, and that if he were a little gentler, he'd be perfect. I thought they were wrong. Steven's dad was the best-looking. Every time he took him to kindergarten, he'd lift him onto his shoulders. How cool was that? But my dad just grabbed me from the car and made me go into the kindergarten by myself. I took the photo that Mom had in her hand. It was one we took at the art gallery a few days ago. Dad originally didn't want to go, but Mom held him back and said, let's take one more photo. Mia will be able to look at it when she grows up. Otherwise, it'll be so sad. I saw tears in Mom's eyes, but she held them back and didn't cry. Dad finally agreed. In the photo, Mom is holding me in my princess dress, gently leaning on Dad's shoulder. Dad didn't push Mom away. He quietly let her lean on him. Out of the three of us, I was the only one smiling so happily. The night before, as Mom held me to sleep, she kissed my face and said, I wish I could be more useful. Mia, you have to grow up brave and never be afraid. I happily rolled around in her arms. Okay, I'll grow up brave. She smiled too, but there were tears on her face. She had been crying a lot recently, even more than me. Later, she coaxed me to sleep, in the drowsy haze. I heard her pleading with someone. It's not time yet. Why are you here? Let me make a call and arrange for my daughter. She's only 3, please. I didn't know who she was talking to since we were alone in the house, but I was so sleepy, I couldn't keep my eyes open. When I woke up, Mom was still lying next to me, her blanket not covering her fully, which was why her body was so cold. I held her hand with my little hand, hoping she would get warm. Unfortunately, she didn't. After a while, Mom's phone rang. I went to answer, but the ringtone stopped. It was because the phone ran out of battery. I charged the phone, but the call didn't come back. I was hungry, so I moved a little stool to open the fridge, but I could only reach a bag of bread. I wanted to get the milk from the fridge, but the stool fell over, and I landed heavily. Mom, it hurts. I cried while trying to find her, but Mom still didn't wake up. She used to be so scared when I fell and hurt myself. I cried until I was exhausted, and then I fell asleep beside Mom, in my dream. I heard Dad's voice. No, it wasn't in my dream. Dad had really come back. I opened my eyes. And I really did hear the sound of him entering the password. The door opened. But Dad didn't come in. His voice came through. Mia's kindergarten called and said she didn't go to school. I'm coming back to check. Don't worry. It's normal after the surgery. You should ask the doctor. I'll come find you soon. He was on the phone, speaking so gently. He'd never spoken to Mom and me like that before. He always spoke to us indifferently, sometimes even coldly. Dad, I climbed out of bed and ran out to find him. Dad furrowed his brow when he saw me. Why aren't you wearing your clothes? Where's Mom? I stopped in my tracks and didn't dare walk closer. I stood at the bedroom door and quietly said, Mom's sleeping in bed. He didn't look at Mom. Instead, he coldly said to her, Megan, I'll give you 3 more days to think it over. I'll give you the house and the car. Just sign the divorce papers. It's better for both of us. Something fell in the bedroom. I thought Mom had woken up and rushed to check. But it was just the phone that fell to the ground when it wasn't placed properly while charging. I went outside to call Dad, but he had already taken the elevator and left. I tiptoed to press the elevator button to go down and find him, to tell him that Mom couldn't be woken up. But Mom always said, children can never take the elevator alone. Once I snuck into the underground garage, and Mom searched for me for a long time, crying in worry. I went back to lie down beside Mom. I didn't want her to cry. When she cried, she was so sad, and she would hide it from me so I wouldn't see. I liked her smiling. She was the happiest when she smiled. I had finished eating the bread, and I could only drink water, but I was still hungry, and Mom still hadn't woken up. I thought Mom was sick. When I was sick, she would feed me medicine and I'd get better. I found the medicine I used to take when I was sick and tried to feed it to Mom. She wouldn't open her mouth, and it took a lot of effort for me to get it in. I was feeling sleepy again. So I lay next to her and fell asleep. When I woke up, kindergarten was already over. I crouched by the balcony and looked down. Steven's dad was carrying him on his shoulders, and with his other hand, he was holding his chubby Mom's hand. Steven said his Mom wasn't fat, she was pregnant, and he was soon going to have a little brother or sister. I also wanted a little brother or sister so we could play with toys together and go to kindergarten together. Aunt Linda came over and told Mom, Mia's 3 now, you and Jackson could have another one. Mom said, having a child to hold on to a relationship doesn't make it strong, and he's been really busy with work lately. Aunt Linda laughed. Busy? Last month, I even saw you two in the underground garage, sitting in the car together. Mom's face turned red, and she covered my ears. Mia's here, Aunt Linda said. It's fine, kids don't understand anyway. I didn't understand. But after Aunt Linda left, I kept asking Mom what she and Dad were doing in the car. Were they secretly eating good food without me? Mom asked me, Mia, do you want a little brother or sister? I nodded eagerly. Yes, Mom, have one quickly. I want them tomorrow. Mom stroked my face. Well, Mia, if you have a little brother or sister, you won't be lonely. Mom had told me before that she was an orphan and was afraid of being alone. She also told me that she had a serious illness, and as long as Dad loved her, she could stay healthy and be with him and me forever. Does Dad love you? I asked her. Mom didn't answer. It seemed like she didn't know either. That night, Mom made something delicious for dinner, and before Dad came back, she put me to bed. But when Dad came home, I immediately woke up. I wanted to tell him to make sure he loved Mom, so that we could always be together. I opened the door and saw Mom in a red dress, pouring wine for Dad. My mom was so beautiful, but Dad pushed her away. What now? Trying the same old trick again. He was angry. Mom froze, and I was a little scared too. Mom nervously put down the wine bottle. I don't know what you mean, Dad sneered. 5 years ago, when you appeared at that bar, was it really just a coincidence? You only knew what I needed at that time, so you deliberately got close to me. Mom didn't say anything. She just lowered her eyes, like she had done something wrong. Dad stood up. I hate being deceived and used. We'll get a divorce tomorrow. The house and car are yours, Mia too. I'll give you some money, enough to live the rest of your life without worries. I knew what divorce was. My friend Sophia's parents divorced. She lived with her dad and said it was hard to see her mom. Mom's tears fell like pearls. One by one, Dad didn't comfort her. What are you crying for? Didn't you work so hard to marry me for all of these things? Mom shook her head. No, I didn't want all of these things. Even if you didn't have any of them, I would still want to be with you. Dad didn't believe her. He left, leaving Mom standing there alone for a long, long time. She muttered to herself, "You've forgotten, back then, you were the one who hugged me and told me not to leave. You said you liked me, really liked me. That was the first time I was ever liked. Mom, I also like you, really like you," I told Mom. She closed her eyes and didn't respond. I kissed her face. Mom loved it when I kissed her. She always said I was her little angel, a treasure more precious than her own life. But then, I smelled something strange on Mom's body. I didn't like that smell. My mom was always clean, sweet-smelling, and soft, but never like this. I went to the bathroom and got the body wash she usually used, and I rubbed it on her, but the smell faded only for a while, then came back. "Mom, wake up." I couldn't hold back my tears anymore. I cried harder and harder. And then the thunder started and the rain poured down. I was so scared of thunder that I hid under the blankets, not daring to come out, but Mom always told me to be brave and not to be afraid. I climbed out from under the blanket and tried to call Dad, to tell him that Mom took the medicine but still wouldn't wake up. Mom was very, very sick, but the phone screen was black, and I couldn't find where to make the call. I had charged it, so why was it still dark? I thought Dad would call back. He must have heard the thunder too. In the past, when it thundered, he'd come to my room and stay with Mom and me. He'd say I was too scared, like a little mouse. I angrily told him, "I'm not a little mouse, I'm not." "And what are you?" he asked. I put my hands on my hips and said proudly, "I'm your little treasure." He smiled then, and so did Mom. I admit, at that moment, he was more handsome than Steven's dad, but he didn't smile often, so he wasn't handsome all the time. I waited and waited, waiting for the thunder and rain to stop, but I didn't get the call I was hoping for. The next day when I woke up, I gave Mom the medicine again. There was a knock on the door. Someone finally came. Was it Dad? No, it couldn't be. Dad always entered with the password, never knocked. It could be a bad person. Mom always said children shouldn't open the door to strangers. It was dangerous. "Who's there?" I asked from the door. "Mia, it's me, Nina." I quickly pushed the door against the frame. "You can't come in, go away." Nina was worse than a bad person, although she looked a bit like Mom. When she came a few days ago, she had made Mom cry for a long time. It was the day after Dad left. Early in the morning, there was a knock on the door. Mom went to open it, and Nina was standing outside. She looked Mom up and down, then smiled. "You do look a little like me." Mom's face went pale, and I had never seen her like that before. But I didn't think she looked like Mom at all. My mom's eyes were gentler and more beautiful. Even Steven admitted that my mom was prettier than his mom. No matter how much others looked like my mom, I could always recognize her at a glance. That day, Nina came into our house, looked around, then sat down on the couch. Mom asked me to play in the room, but I didn't want to. "I wanted to stay with Mom," Nina said. "My son Tom is so disobedient. I've already hit him." Mom hugged me. "He's just a little kid being spoiled. He's not disobedient. My child can be disciplined, but no one can lay a hand on him." Nina smiled. "If you don't teach him, someone will teach him when he gets out in the world." Mom said, "How he turns out in the future is none of your business." Mom usually spoke so gently, but this was the first time I'd ever heard her speak with anger. Nina replied, "What does it have to do with me? Jackson's already asked for a divorce. Whatever money he gives you, I get half." Mom took a sip of tea. "Don't forget, every penny he has now is half mine." Nina stormed out, but before she left, she said, "You're just taking advantage of my face to take my place." Mom looked at her. "If you hadn't left him when he was at his lowest point and remarried, I wouldn't have had the chance to take your place." Mom seemed like a warrior from an animation at that moment, but after Nina left, I heard Mom crying in the bathroom. I heard her talking to someone. She said that if Dad no longer loved her, she would lose her soul and never be able to see me again. She also said she shouldn't be so greedy. She shouldn't have wanted both love and children at the same time. And she shouldn't have brought me into this world to make me suffer. I called Dad and told him what Mom had said, that she might die. Dad asked me, "Is your mom with you? Did she teach you to say this?" I said she wasn't there, and it was something I wanted to tell him. Dad got angry and said, "Then let her die." "Dad, you're a bad guy." I cried. Though I didn't know what death was, I felt deeply sad. After hanging up the phone, I turned around and saw Mom standing at the door. She came over and gently hugged me, patting my back and comforting me, telling me she would always be by my side, even if she turned into wind or rain, she would forever be with me. That night, Dad came home. He scolded Mom for teaching me such nonsense. Mom quietly listened without explaining. When Dad stopped talking, she smiled and asked, "You must like me, right? If you didn't, how could we have slept in the same bed for so long, even if I look like her, after all this time? You can tell the difference, Jackson. Can you just like me, just once?" She said it with a smile, but her eyes were still full of tears. Dad said, "Don't think I don't know you drugged my drink to get pregnant with Mia. You think you can control me with a child. You're wrong. To me, you're just a physical need." After saying the last sentence, Mom stopped smiling and stopped crying. She just stared at Dad, motionless, like the beautiful porcelain doll in my toy chest. Finally, she spoke, one word at a time, "I won't divorce you, not even if I die." Nina continued to knock on the door outside. "Mia, open the door. Auntie brought you some delicious food, and your brother Tom is here too." I also heard a little boy throwing a tantrum, saying he didn't like it here and wanted to go back to play games. "I won't open the door. Please leave," I said loudly, even though I was very hungry and really wanted to eat. Nina didn't respond to me. Instead, she called my mom by name. "Megan, come out, let's talk again. You don't need to hide from me like this. We'll have to meet again someday. Why bother chasing after someone who doesn't like you?" After a while, she finally left. I quietly opened the door and found the hallway empty. If only she had left the food behind. I was so hungry that my stomach hurt. I rummaged through the trash and found an egg I had dropped earlier, even though Mom had told me not to eat food from the floor, that it could make me sick. I couldn't resist. I carefully peeled off the dirt and took a bite. Then I remembered that Mom hadn't eaten yet. Mom said when you're sick, you have to eat to get better. I walked over to Mom with the egg. "Mom, eat it. You'll feel better if you eat it." Mom didn't eat, so I broke the egg into small pieces and tried to feed it to her, just like how I had given her medicine. Then I lay down next to her. Tomorrow, Mom would feel better, right? I woke up again. It was still daylight. It wasn't yet tomorrow. The strange smell on Mom was stronger. I propped a stool against the window to open it for ventilation, just like Mom always did. "Hey, kid, it's dangerous. Get down," a man shouted from across the street. "Is there an adult at your house? Your child is climbing the window." I told him, "Uncle, I'm not climbing the window. I'm opening it." But he didn't seem to hear me and kept shouting for me to get down. I climbed down, and the uncle finally stopped shouting. The wind blew in, rustling Mom's soft hair, and the unpleasant smell started to fade a little. The photo was blown to the ground by the wind. I picked up the photo and looked at it. It was a picture of us, the night Mom had said she wouldn't divorce Dad. He stopped coming home, but Mom took me to his office to find him, saying we should leave some photos behind. Mom dressed beautifully and put me in a pretty princess dress. Dad's face was cold, and he told Mom to take me back because he had a meeting in the afternoon. He told her not to come to his office randomly in the future. Mom wasn't angry. She quietly said to Dad, "This is the last time. I won't come again. Just take one last photo. Mia will grow up and want to see it. Otherwise, it would be so pitiful." Dad reluctantly agreed to go with us. During the photo session, the photographer kept asking Dad and Mom to get closer and smile more, but in the end, it was only I who was smiling. After the photo, Mom told the photographer to rush the prints as soon as possible. Then Mom said to Dad, "Mia wants to eat McDonald's. Let's go together." Dad frowned. "Don't feed her junk food." Mom smiled. "Just one last time. We won't eat it again after this." Then she took Dad's hand. "Really, I'm not lying." I kissed Dad's cheek and said, "Dad, I want to eat." Dad reluctantly agreed to go with us. Mom ordered a lot of delicious food, even letting me have ice cream, which I wasn't usually allowed to have. I was so happy. There were many children in McDonald's, and everyone had their parents with them, but I felt like I was the happiest one. I ate until my face was covered with cream, and Dad wiped my mouth with a napkin. Mom took photos of us. Dad asked what was so interesting to take pictures of, and Mom said it was because it was fun. In the end, she asked someone else to take a photo of the three of us together. After eating, we went to the park to walk. Mom bought me a rabbit balloon, and I sat on Dad's shoulders. holding the balloon and singing. People around us said we were a happy family. Mom also linked arms with Dad. Dad said, "Don't think this will change my mind." Mom replied, smiling, "I know, there won't be a next time." That day, the sunset reflected in the river, and it was so beautiful. Mom told me that was the most beautiful view in the world. If I had known that was the last time I would see the sunset with Dad and Mom, I would have never fallen asleep. I would have watched closely and kept it in my heart. But after we got back and Dad took us home, he was going back to his office. Mom said to Dad, "Today is the happiest day of my life." Then she stood on tiptoe and kissed Dad. "Jackson, thank you." Dad lowered his gaze to look at her, his long lashes slightly trembling. His lips moved as if he wanted to say something to Mom. Mom also looked at him, waiting for him to speak, but in the end, it was Mom who spoke first. "But I still won't divorce you, not even if I die." She said it with a smile, then locked the door behind him. Dad stood outside, angry, while she stayed inside, smiling and shedding tears. That was the last time they argued, the last time they met. I placed the photo back in Mom's hands, muttering, "Mom, the more I look at it, the more I think we both look so good. Mom, next birthday, let's take pictures again. We should do it every year, so I can see myself growing up little by little, right?" "I think so. I can also watch you grow up too." The wind was a bit strong, so I pulled the blanket over Mom to cover her. Her hair had been messed up by the wind, so I got her favorite pearl hairpin to fix it for her. There, now Mom was beautiful again. Someone knocked on the door. "Is anyone home?" "We're from the property management." It was the property uncle and aunt, and the uncle who had told me not to climb the window was there as well. When the uncle saw me, he immediately said, "This is the child who was climbing the window earlier." Luckily, nothing happened. The aunt smiled and looked at me. "Little one, where are your parents?" I replied, "Dad is at the company, and Mom is sick and sleeping. Can we come in and check?" I nodded, "Sure." I led the aunt into the bedroom. The aunt approached Mom, trying to speak to her, but the next second, she screamed and stepped back. The uncles rushed in, gathered around Mom, and some started making phone calls. Soon, the police and doctors arrived. Dad finally came back as well. Mom was dead. I found out when I overheard the uncles and aunts talking. I didn't understand what death meant. I asked the uncles and aunts, but they just shook their heads, and some of them even cried. I went to ask Dad. Dad was standing next to Mom, staring at her. The police told Dad the time of death was around 10 p.m. the night before last. Initial investigations rule out foul play, but the cause of death will be confirmed by an autopsy. Dad said, "She was fine when I came back yesterday morning." I told Dad, "Dad, when you came back yesterday, Mom was already sick." I called her for a long time, but she didn't wake up. Everyone looked at me, including Dad. "What did you say yesterday when you came back?" "I wanted to tell you that Mom was sick, but you left, and I couldn't catch up to you." I gave Mom some medicine, but she just kept sleeping. "Dad, when will Mom wake up?" Dad didn't answer. He swayed slightly, then leaned down to look at Mom. "You've always been fine. You've never been sick. You got sick. We should see a doctor." Suddenly, he picked Mom up and started to walk outside. When he used to carry Mom, she would wrap her arms around his neck and look at him with tenderness. But now, her hands were hanging limp, her eyes closed, and there was no trace of that tenderness left. The uncles tried to pull Dad back and asked him to put Mom down. "Jackson, the dead cannot come back to life. Grieve, you have a daughter, don't scare her." Dad didn't speak, and his strength was so great that the uncles couldn't stop him. I started crying. The uncles asked the aunt to take me away first. Outside, the yard was full of people, and I heard them talking. That kid's mom was a really good person. How could she suddenly? Maybe it was a stroke or a heart attack. These diseases are getting younger. I heard her mom passed away the night before last. The child was with the body all that time. When the property went in, the kid was so hungry, she was eating trash. God, how pitiful. I feel so bad hearing this, but I didn't feel sorry for myself because I had always been with Mom. Later, the uncles came downstairs, but Dad was nowhere to be seen. The uncles were pushing a cart covered with a white blanket. Though I couldn't see who was under the blanket, I knew my mom was in there. When we used to play hide and seek, Mom would lie under the blanket, and I could always recognize her. She would say, "Mom has hidden, Mia, come find me." I would release my hands from covering my eyes and run into the room, searching and searching, until I finally found her under the blanket. She would hug me tightly when I found her, and we would hide under the blanket together, whispering, "This time." I was waiting for Mom to hold me too, but when Mom passed by me, she was still asleep, and she didn't come to hug me. The ant covered my eyes and choked out, "Mia, be good, don't look." I told the ant, "Auntie, I can cover my eyes by myself. When I count to 10, I will open them." Auntie said, "Okay, count to 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 10. I counted carefully to 10, but when I opened my eyes again, the blanket and Mom were gone. Only the cart that had stopped here earlier was driving away. I suddenly realized that Mom was in that cart, and once it left, I would never see her again. I struggled desperately, trying to break free from the ant's arms to chase the cart, crying out, asking them not to take my mom away, but I was too small, and the ant held me tightly and carried me back. I could only watch helplessly as Mom slowly disappeared, along with the blanket, disappearing into my tears. I cried and cried until I fell asleep. When I woke up, I cried again, calling for Mom. I was sent to my grandmother's house. Grandma was sitting in a wheelchair inside. Such a sin. Grandma never liked Mom, because she didn't like Mom. She didn't like me either. I had only seen Grandma twice by the time I was 3. Grandma had the nanny help me take a bath, but the nanny said she was afraid to do it. Grandma was angry, took her cane, and washed me herself, crying as she did it. She said she had a hard life and that my life was even harder. "I want Mom." I cried too. Grandma called Dad, but he didn't answer. She ordered the driver to take us to my house. Sure enough, Dad was at home. He was sitting by the bed where Mom had been. He had grown a short beard. Mom used to dislike his beard, saying it was prickly. Then Dad would lift Mom onto the washstand and say, "Help me." Mom would smile gently then, her delicate fingers covered in white foam as she carefully shaved his beard. Dad would just look at Mom, then kiss her. Later, Mom said to the mirror, "Dad's not looking at me, he's looking at someone else." I thought, it's just the 3 of us at home. Dad doesn't look at me. If he isn't looking at Mom, who is he looking at? Grandma spoke to Dad, but he didn't respond. Grandma slapped Dad hard. "When she was alive, you didn't cherish her. Now she's gone. Who are you doing this for? How much longer are you going to be like this? You're not managing the company anymore. You're not taking care of the child." Then Grandma shoved me into Dad's arms. "You caused this mess. You clean it up. Don't expect me, who's without legs, to help. I told you, Nina is Nina, and Megan is Megan. You wouldn't listen, and now you regret. Now she's gone, and the only thing left for you to do is raise the child you had with her." After Grandma finished scolding, she left, leaving me and Dad alone in the house. That evening, Aunt Linda from next door came over with food. She was still crying. She said she was out of town at the time, but saw me knock on her door from the surveillance footage and thought I had come to play. She never thought much of it. I really regret it. Why didn't I ask one more question then? Aunt Linda cried uncontrollably. Everyone had missed a chance to ask one more question. It was too late. After Aunt Linda left, Dad suddenly thought of something. He went to the study and opened the computer. After typing a few words, Mom appeared on the screen. It was the surveillance from our home, which had been installed when I was born. Dad didn't like having other people in the house, so after I was born, we didn't even have a nanny. He installed the surveillance to always keep an eye on me, in case something happened. On the screen, it was night. Mom was sitting quietly on the living room sofa, the TV playing a comedy show, with the audience laughing loudly. Mom, who loved to laugh, didn't smile. She picked up the phone a few times but then put it down. Then I came out, rubbing my eyes, and laid on Mom's lap to continue sleeping. Mom held me and looked at me for a long time. I had fallen asleep next to Dad while he was watching the footage. When I woke up, Dad was still watching, and the computer showed me and Mom lying on the bed, with Mom holding a photo from the photo studio and telling me a story. This was the last time Mom was alive. "Mom, how did you and Dad meet?" I asked in the footage. Mom pushed her soft hair behind her ear and said, It was inevitable." I didn't understand. Then Mom taught me to be brave and not be afraid. She said even if she turned into rain or wind, she would always protect me. I fell asleep in her arms. I don't know how much time passed, but suddenly, Mom sat up and stared into the air. her face filled with pleading. She was talking to someone, but the sound cut off just as the surveillance stopped. I could only see Mom in pain, falling off the bed to grab her phone and dial a number, but the call was quickly dropped. She typed something, then collapsed, but she struggled to get up again and crawled towards me on the bed, inch by inch. She finally reached my side and pulled the blanket over my little belly. She tried to touch my face but lost strength and fell, never to move again. But I didn't know any of this. I was just sweetly sleeping beside her. Dad kept hitting the computer, but it didn't help. After a moment of thought, I told him, "I know what Mom said." "I heard it," Dad immediately asked. "What did she say?" Mom said, "Why are you here? The time isn't up yet. My daughter is only 3. Let me make a call and arrange for her." And she also said, I couldn't remember much. I was so sleepy at the time. Dad gently cupped my face and looked into my eyes. "Mia, think carefully." I tried to think hard, and finally remembered. Mom's last words were, "I regret falling in love with Jackson. If I had known, I wouldn't have come into this." Dad froze. Then, he pushed me away. He angrily said I was lying, that I was just a child, and couldn't remember so many words, that I was just making it up. I was furious and said, "I remember, Mom really said that." Dad stopped talking. He found Mom's phone and started looking through it. I don't know what he saw, but in the end, he cried. I had never seen Dad cry before, so this was how heartbroken he was when he cried. Later, Grandma told me that Mom's last call was to Dad, but it was hung up. The last message was also sent to him. "Come home quickly." Mom must have been very sick at that time, so she only wrote those 3 words. But Dad's phone didn't have the message. It had been deleted. The cause of Mom's death was later confirmed to be sudden cardiac death. The day Mom was buried, it rained lightly and the breeze blew gently. I stood by the gravestone and said, "Mom, I can see you." The adults around me were scared and whispered. Dad crouched down and asked me, "Where is Mom?" "Point her out to Dad." He believed me and thought Mom was really there. I stretched out my hand to catch the raindrops and said, "This is Mom." She told me she would turn into the breeze and the rain to be with me. My mom never lied to me. Dad still lived in the house with me, though everyone around him suggested he should move out. Our house was even called a haunted house. Dad ignored them. He lived in the surveillance videos and the photos Mom took. It used to be Mom who would watch these. Now it was Dad. It used to be Mom sitting in the living room all night. Now it was Dad. After breakfast, he would ask, "Megan, where's my tie?" No one would answer. He would stare blankly at the bedroom he shared with Mom, then go inside to find his tie, and take me to kindergarten. But before long, Grandma sent a driver to pick me up. She said Dad had been in a serious car accident on his way to work. When we got to the hospital, the doctors were trying to resuscitate him. Grandma told the doctors, "Just tell him, if he dies, his daughter will be left an orphan. Ask him, how is a 3-year-old child and an elderly woman with a broken leg supposed to survive?" Dad was eventually brought back to life. I stood by his side as he, like Mom, hugged me tightly. He said, "Don't be afraid, Dad won't leave you." Grandma sighed in relief, but she secretly cried. Later, Nina came by, but Grandma wouldn't let her see Dad. Nina found her way to my house and smiled at me, saying, "Mia, let me be your mom." Dad had hired a nanny, and Grandma stood behind her, shouting, "Who are you? What do you want? I'll tell you, child trafficking is punishable by law." Aunt Linda came over and stopped Nina. "You better leave. What are you doing here harassing this child?" Nina replied, "I just feel sorry for her. I came to see her. Jackson and I will get married one day, and then I'll raise this child." Aunt Linda pushed her out. "Don't think we don't know how many times you've tried to make Megan angry. She's the one who's been killed by you." Nina laughed. "How could I have that kind of ability?" Aunt Linda got furious and almost hit her, but in the end, she held back. Aunt Linda then smiled. "Of course, you don't have that ability. Otherwise, Megan's been gone for almost a year, and you still haven't managed to marry Jackson." When you left Jackson less than 6 months later, Megan was already pregnant with Jackson's child. By comparison, Megan had more ability. Nina was stunned, then started fighting with Aunt Linda. The nanny also joined in to help Aunt Linda, and it wasn't until the security came that they were separated. When Dad came home, he coldly said to Nina, "Don't come here again. I never want to see you again." Nina cried and asked him, "Can't we go back to the way things were?" Dad replied, "No, back then, when I was in the hospital, you took the opportunity to hang up the call Megan made to me and deleted the message she sent. How could you still be trying to get something else? You once saved me, but you also harmed me. From now on, we're even." Nina walked away crying, and after that, she never appeared before me again. When I entered kindergarten, Grandma suggested that Dad move me to another villa. She said that house had the best educational resources in the city, but Dad didn't want to move. He said that I didn't need to focus on learning, I just needed to grow up healthy and happy. Grandma sighed. Well, health and happiness are more important than anything. Although Dad was very kind to me and spent time with me every day, I still didn't like him. Every day, after the nanny finished her work and left, it was just the two of us at home. I would play in my room, and he would stay in the study, watching the surveillance footage of when Mom was alive. He tried everything he could, but the only videos he could recover were from the 3 months before Mom passed away. Except for the last few days when they argued, the majority of those 3 months were peaceful. In the mornings, Mom would make breakfast and wake Dad and me up. After breakfast, she would tidy up the house, and then Dad would take me to kindergarten when we were both away. Mom would start painting. She liked to draw comics, which she posted on a website and gained many fans. I had once watched those comics on Steven's computer. The story was about a sick girl who met her true love. The girl was tricked by her classmates into going to a bar and almost got assaulted, but a young boy stepped in to save her. The girl instantly fell in love with him, and the boy didn't reject her love. Together, they went through many trials. In the end, the girl recovered from her illness, and the boy genuinely fell in love with her. They had a daughter and lived a simple and happy life as a family. Steven said, "This is so boring. It's not as interesting as my Ultraman," but I cried as I watched it. I knew that the girl in the story was Mom. It was her imagined version of herself. Mom had once told me that she wasn't from our world. She had been seriously ill in her world and was sent here. I once told this to my favorite teacher. The teacher then told Grandma, who brought in a psychologist. The psychologist said that this was a beautiful lie my subconscious had made up to help me accept Mom's passing. Only Dad remained silent. He later took the hard drive to a professional agency to repair it, but no matter what they tried, they couldn't recover the last moments of Mom's voice. That year, Dad invested the majority of his wealth into a foreign tech company. He was lucky, because when I entered middle school, that company had developed into an industry unicorn, and Dad became a major shareholder. He was 34 that year, still young. He met Mom when he was 20. At that time, Grandpa had passed away, and Grandma was in the ICU after a car accident. In critical condition, Dad dropped out of university to take over the family company. During his hardest times, he met Mom, and they had me. Dad rarely appeared in the public eye, and people spread all sorts of rumors about him, calling him a reptilian or an inhabitant of the Earth's core. Grandma said that Dad believed my words and thought that Mom was in another world. He wanted to bring her back, so he turned to technology. Grandma also said he was foolish, because technology and souls are opposites. If he wanted to find someone, he should study metaphysics. She said he was just delusional, that he wasn't a god. He was just a pathetic fool who only realized his regrets after losing everything. Only I knew that what he was actually doing was combining cloning with artificial intelligence. These things were not allowed internationally. After Dad became a major shareholder, I was sent to live with him in a mansion by the sea. In the basement of the mansion, I discovered a high-tech room with a lifelike replica of Mom. I touched her skin. It was soft like Mom's, and it even smelled the same. She even had a heartbeat. I secretly observed her a few times. She would smile at Dad just like Mom, help him shave and tie his tie, and make delicious meals. Dad often stared at her blankly, so absorbed that he didn't notice me sneaking in. One time, when Dad was not home, I went to the basement. "Mom," I whispered. She smiled at me and said, "Hello, what's your name? Why are you crying?" Her voice was exactly the same as Mom's, and Dad had truly done something amazing. I said, "Mom, I'm Mia." She reached out to wipe away my tears and said, "Mia, I can feel that you're very sad. What can I do to help you?" I held her hand to my face and said, "Mom, let's play hide and seek again. You go hide under the blanket, and I'll count to 10 before I come find you." Okay. She lay on the floor and covered herself with the blanket. I counted to 10 and walked towards her, but in the end, I didn't lift the blanket. Because her eyes told me that she was just an incredibly expensive technological creation, without any life. My real mom's eyes always had the gentlest light in them. My mom was one of a kind, she was never anyone else's substitute, and no one could ever replace her. Moreover, she had once said she regretted meeting Dad. At 3 years old, I didn't understand why Mom was so sad for so long because of something Dad had said. To me, you are nothing but a biological need. Now, I understand. Because her true-hearted dedication was, to Dad, just a useful tool, although Dad regretted saying those words. Mom was already gone, and what use was regret now? In the end, I lay next to the doll, hugged it, and whispered, thank you for allowing me to see Mom as she was before." Then I turned off her program and set the basement on fire. In the roaring flames, I returned to the surface. A gentle breeze blew across the lake, and fine raindrops fell from the sky. I spread my arms, tilted my head back, closed my eyes, and felt the tender rain and wind. My mom, she never lied to me. No matter where she is, or how far away. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. If you liked our video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and share our channel. See you next time.